What is up, everybody? This is Lyle with No Hippie Trucking and Transportation, and just wanted to get to the comments on this video that I'd asked a while back about why would you or anybody want business credit. So we're going to get into those comments here. I've only read about 4 of these comments, so most of this stuff is going to be coming off the top of my head. Now, before we get into these comments on this, first of all, you have to understand my perspective on this is that being in the business I was in, I saw a lot of businesses fail, and I saw a lot of people, including myself, go through financial issues based on the amount of credit that they've had. As a matter of fact, I would say that one of the main reasons why businesses go out of, fail is because they have too much debt. So I am a personal believer that the average person does not have enough self-discipline to manage their debt correctly. For example, when I was doing mortgage loans, if somebody wanted to buy a house, I get them qualified for a house, and rather than asking, I guess what I'm saying is, if I told somebody that made $30,000 a year that they could qualify for a $700,000 house, they're out looking at it. They're not worried about, as long as they get approved, that's what they're going for. They don't think about the paying it back or any of that stuff till it's down the road. And I see a lot of that in trucking. A lot of this came to light with some of the, stress that was going on earlier this year when everybody was complaining about rates going down, and we're 3 weeks into a slightly down market. But let's get to these comments. I'm going to be going off the top of my head here. So let's see. JJ the trucker says, you don't want to wait until you're one of the big boys to start establishing your credit. It takes time to get started now, and use it wisely. So that's one good thing he's talking about, is using it wisely. And then by the time you're a big boy, your business credit will be built up. All right. And then credit card offers, you get points back and things like that. Okay. So let's really talk about this. And this is one thing that a lot of people think that they have all their business credit in their business's name. I will be more than happy to look at most people's paperwork. Most people are personally guaranteed on a lot of the loans that they have. So really, the business credit that they're getting, you are establishing business credit, but you're also putting yourself on the line at a worse rate than you would have been able to get just putting it in your own name to begin with. As far as the credit card points and stuff like that goes, I'm going to just confess right now, just because of a lot of these credit card skimmers that they have out here at some of these truck stops and different things like that, I don't use my debit card because it's easier to get reimbursed on a credit card. I don't pay those credit cards back as fast as I typically would. Normally I pay them off week to week, and then now it's just more of a hassle to kind of get to my computer, turn it on, log on, do all that kind of stuff. And so even then I'm kind of slowed up a little bit. But I do get the points on that. But I think a lot of people aren't. Again, we're going to get back to this discipline thing. Listen, if you're 100% disciplined, a lot of the stuff I'm saying in this video doesn't have anything to do with you, but a lot of people are always going to put off paying stuff until it's necessary to be paid for. So, and again, as far as waiting till you're one of the big boys, I'm not sure how big that, JJ's referring to here, but personally, me, if I was running, like, I'm conservative, so you hear all these people talk about getting authorities and doing all this kind of stuff and buying their own truck and doing all that. If I was to do that, I would not feel comfortable doing it as some of these people did unless I had, my first plan was to go ahead and go that route. Get my truck, do my own thing, more for the freedom than for the money, all that. And I had planned on having financing a truck, basically doing it in my own name. Now that was going to take a while. Actually, you know what? I could have still rocked that out without having time in the business, just based on the credit and stuff that I have and the collateral I have. So I could have bought the truck without having any experience in trucking. The bank wouldn't have been looking at me like, show us your last what. They would have just looked at it and said, here it is. But I would not. I was going to have minimum before I even started anything, after buying the truck and after everything, $50,000 at a minimum. I mean, $50,000. If you don't, $50,000 in the bank would make me feel very uncomfortable going into this. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Okay, Hog Rider, it works just like regular credit. You want to build your business credit, so when you go to buy a truck, then they can show, okay, essentially what they're saying is build up your credit so when you go buy a truck. I'm telling you that the majority of people that are thinking they're buying a truck solely in their business's name, I'm telling you, most of those people aren't. There's at some point they've got your social security number and all that stuff. You may not obviously know that, but most of these loans are going to be personally guaranteed. Before you start worrying about business credit, worry about personal credit. I wouldn't even consider worrying about business credit, until I have my own personal credit and all those things handled. So personal credit is way more important than business credit, because you can always lean on that personal credit. And again, if I'm going to be saying that, I'm a super trucker and I'm out here doing this stuff, I don't have a problem putting my own name on that paperwork for a better rate, saving me money over the long term as well. So that's my reply on that one. If you're sitting in that seat, you are constantly, okay, they're talking about me always surveying my surroundings. Okay, I'm at Prime now, and the reason I left my last job to come here is because I got laid off, and I can't help you since I don't look at trucking as a career. So okay, that wasn't a question as far as this goes. Johnson's Logic, me personally, establishing business credit through my trucking business qualifies me to have more capital access to fund other projects and other business ventures. Or if I decide to finalize my plans to start a fleet, it's like a backup e-fund, if you will. Now, okay, and again, like I'm saying, a lot of this credit that people are thinking is solely in their business name isn't solely in their business name. Trust me. Now, some of it may be, some of it may not be, but it's generally going to be a higher rate than any personal loan is going to have a better rate than a business loan. That's just the way it works. Now, again, I'm more kind of the conservative. I'm going to have enough, because at some point, here's what a lot of people don't fail to realize is whenever you access credit, you're actually it's assumed that you're going to pay it back. So this isn't free money, and a lot of people look at it like free money. I'm just telling you that a lot of the people that got into trucking, let's say when the times were good, got into this, and you're seeing it, instead of trying to buy a truck that they could do to get the job done, and I'm not saying don't get a new truck or anything like that. I'm saying instead of just getting whatever, they had to have the 389 and they had to have it all fixed up and they had to have all this stuff, and none of that, there's nothing wrong with any of that. There's a difference between one person buying a 389 Peterbilt and doing all that than another person doing it. If you have all the money in the bank and all the good credit and assets and all that, buy a space shuttle if you want. But a lot of people are worried more about how much they qualify for than what actually gets the job done. So I don't think that Johnson's logic would be like that. He's probably one of the most analytical people in the world, but I would, and this, like I said, this is all personally me. I'm not saying I'm doing that my way is the right way, but if I was to start a fleet, I would kind of look at it like, instead of the mentality like, okay, I'm going to start this big fleet, I'm going to do it one truck at a time, and each truck is going to be kind of its own individual entity, and it's going to have X amount of dollars behind it before I add another one. I'm not just going to be solely leaning on either luck or credit to get me by. So one of the most successful business people in Colorado started his business, still owns everything cash, and I would probably assume that Robert Lowe's pretty much in that situation as well. But American Furniture Warehouse, if you happen to see those trucks on the road, I worked for him a long time back, and everything he's done has been straight cash, from buildings to trucks to, and he just started his trucks, I think, within the last 10 years or something like that, maybe. But that he was mainly just in the furniture business, and one of the reasons, again, if you're going to use credit, you're going to have to pay it back. When it's time to start paying that back, it's sort of like, people are sitting here worried about me or anybody at Prime making $1,000 truck payment, but they aren't worried about establishing credit and putting stuff on credit that they're going to have to end up paying back in the long run. So again, I would tend to be more cash rich than credit rich. Well, let me not put that. Somebody's gonna ask me to put it on the glass. I can put it on the grass. As far as credit goes, I could buy whatever I want. As far as the credit goes, what really equates to a good credit score isn't the amount of credit, it's actually the lack of use of credit. We can get into that later, but there's different ratios and stuff like that that come in effect, and how you actually use your credit and things like that. But I wouldn't start a business where I would be going into the business worried about having credit to back it up. Personally, I'm not saying that that's the right way. That's just the way I would. All right, people want business credit so they can keep their truck purchases under their business name. And I'm telling you, most of these truck purchases are not solely in businesses' names, not up front. I can guarantee you that. Maybe after the business has been around for a long period of time, and actually the age of the business has more to do with the actual business credit. So you could take somebody that has a business who really doesn't have much or any business credit, and a bank's going to look at them more favorably if they've been around for 20 years than somebody that's been buying little bullshit off of Harbor Freight or something like that to build up their business credit, little knickknacks, maybe. A truck is one thing, but again, that's going to be personally guaranteed as well for the most part. So time in business and actually your profit and loss has more to do with your business credit than when you're establishing real business credit. I'm not talking about these little bullshit credit cards or anything like that. I'm talking about the actual loans, lines of credit, things like that. Business credit and personal credit will affect your company's ability to get financing for a semi-truck and will affect your insurance rates. Now, good credit does affect your insurance rates on personal vehicles. I'm not sure how it does on commercial vehicles, but that makes sense as well. And I'm just saying, good credit, it doesn't matter. I mean, work on your personal credit before you start worrying about how your business credit's going to shake up. And if your personal credit's fine, then it shouldn't be hard to establish business credit at all. Trucker Avocado, and the other comment was Rick in that just did that. Trucker Avocado, I think I would do business credit, but I want a small fleet of trucks, like about 20 to 50 trucks. Now, if you have when you start getting up into like larger fleets and stuff like that, a lot of businesses that are successful and not successful business-wise, but use credit successfully, don't use it for emergencies or anything like that. They use it for cash flow. more than they use it for issues that come up. They're not thinking, well, my stove went out. If it's a restaurant, my stove went out, so now I need to go buy a stove on credit. They're usually floating receivables and things like that more than they are, buying different shit for the business. They're not using credit like that. The successful businesses, or that use credit successfully. Bearded fat man, I thought business credit would help, like back at home, buy a rental or smaller house and use the business credit to help it get started. That's what my plans are. What do you think? Business credit, you can't really buy property other than commercial property with business credit. And typically, depending on your business, I've done business loans or loans for I've done both ways. I've done loans for personal, or done loans for personal people buying commercial properties, and that would be a commercial loan that was typically in their name. And then I've done loans for people that owned commercial businesses buying personal homes. Now, depending on the business, you are able to, or depending on the person in the business, you are able to buy a commercial property in a business's name. Usually, if you're buying commercial properties, it's going to be somebody that's... Usually when somebody's buying commercial properties, they have relationships with banks. You're not just... And I think this is another thing that needs to be said, is if you want to establish business credit, you're sitting here listening to my video. Instead of listening to me, walk down to a bank and establish a relationship with a bank. Don't, all this stuff I've been hearing about, they're going to tell you exactly how to do it, at least within their banking system. All this buying little shit off of Harbor Freight and doing it, that should listen to somebody that is at a bank that you actually want to get this financing through. And then they might, start you off with the business line of credit that's, personally guaranteed. And then after a while, if your business has been around for a while and you've maybe, used it sparingly to pay different stuff off, then they might drop you off and do it solely into your business. But you aren't coming out the bat just doing no real business line of credit. You might get like, a few $1,000s, maybe 10, but you ain't getting no 20, 30, 40 without having a personally guaranteed loan until you've been at it a while. The great question I have been trying to figure out, and this is White Line Transportation, and let me see, would you like to hear input on being... Basically, he wants to hear what I have to say. Riches River Smoker, no business loan, bad news. I just think everybody wants to do things the quick and easy way, and nobody wants to save no goddamn money. Now is the time. If I was to be wanting to start a business, I would just be stacking cash. Now, I'm not talking about what I have now that I had before trucking. I'm saying once I got in trucking, the amount of money that you can save very quickly, you should be able to save enough money, especially in trucking. You should be able to do this without really establishing business credit, but if you want it, do what you got to do to get it. And Michelle Evie was reiterating what I was saying about personal credit being the key. You're never going to have a good business credit without good personal credit. Now, you can usually when you're talking with the bigger boys. So you could have a situation where a business has been with the bank, and I'm just looking at my time to make sure I don't... You could be at a bank where you've been there for a long time. Your business has a lot of these banks will do, like, a lot of the loans are sold on the open market and things like that, but a lot of them keep those loans in their portfolio. So you may have a loan with the bank where your business is paying back these loans all on time, perfectly, all that stuff, but maybe you've gone through a personal bankruptcy or something like that, and your business credit can stand on its own. That takes a while to get to that point. Let's see. It's usually built as your business growth. You know what, Michelle it knows what she's talking about. Most new businesses cannot establish it when they are brand new because they have no history. It's usually built as your business grows, and you must have substantial collateral. That's another thing they're going to be looking for up front. And if you are in a lease, they cannot use that. If you own your home outright or have built up equity, you can use that. So another good way to build up business credit is to own a house. Banks love putting loans on houses, and they'll even allow you to throw your little your little business number and shit on there to make you feel better about it. Michelle knows what she's talking about. If you happen to be watching this, you're very smart. Missy Willis, I'm not in trucking, but maybe because they fear they will have an unfortunate accident or issue and need money they may not have, and they may need a credit card to get it fixed. That's exactly my point, Missy. You gotta crawl before you walk. If you don't have enough money before you, like when you buy your truck, to, like I'm saying, $50,000 would make me feel uncomfortable just in general. But $50,000, and you're gonna be operating a truck that at any time, if it's not under warranty, could cost you $30,000 or something like that. I'm saying have some capital, have some reserves. I have credit, and I could tap into a whole lot of credit if I want to, but the reason my credit's good is because I have all that outstanding or all that available credit, and I really don't have shit outstanding. So if I needed it, I could use it. But I know from my misuse of credit in my youth that you end up having to pay it back, and it's a whole lot harder to pay it back than it is to spend it. I might have to do this in a couple of videos because we're up here. I'm gonna probably end up doing a part. No, I think I can get through this if my phone doesn't go off. The benefits, and you know what? I am going to do another part 2 on this. One of the beauties of Prime, or operating under some of these other companies, is that really eliminates your need to have business credit if you don't have any money. Because if something happens on the road, boom, you just take it in, they get it done, then they kind of just, you kind of pay it back, or however that happens. So you're not really having to come up with that initial amount of money. And that's one of the reasons, and I'm going to do the part 2, that's one of the reasons I like Prime. It would be easy for me. I would be a great candidate to go out and start my own authority and buy my own truck and do all that kind of stuff. But the liabilities don't, the upside just doesn't outweigh the liabilities to do it that route. I'm under Prime, and I know one of the comments I read earlier felt like somebody taking a shot, saying so they don't have to pay like $5,000 a month for lease at Prime. I don't really look at this as a payment. I look at it as an operating expense, and it's an operating expense that's going to pay for itself in 3 years. So I don't look at it like that. What I look at is, for a $14,000 gamble on myself, I could buy this truck. And another reason, I could buy this truck without having anything on my credit. So when I go and try to buy another home or vacation property or something like that, and I want to get a loan, that's not showing up on my credit as a liability or anything like that. If I want to walk away from it, you know what? I lost $14,000, but that's very cheap. That's a pretty cheap, I guess, entry into it. Anyway, that's why. I guess to answer that question, maybe they don't want to spend $5,000 on a truck and all that kind of stuff. Well, there's plenty of reasons why I felt that it really made sense for me to do this here at Prime, and I don't really look at it as a liability. Anyway, I'm going to get to part 2 on this. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do it today or tomorrow. I'm at this lovely truck stop right outside of Springfield, about 60 miles. I guess this would be east of Springfield. It's called the Oasis Travel Plaza. It's a Sinclair. If you look at it on Trucker Path, I think it's called Roadies or something like that. A really nice place, but yeah, I'm gonna be sitting down for a while. I'll probably get up early in the morning to leave for my appointment in Fort Worth, Texas. But I do appreciate you guys stopping by. Listen, I'm not saying that my way is the right way, okay? I'm just telling you why I don't do it. And hopefully this gives you at least something to think about, because I talk to a lot of people and they will tell you that they really haven't, when they think about money, they think about credit, they think about business, they don't really think about all the aspects of it. So hopefully I can at least give you something to chew on. And then it makes it all worth it, right? Anyway, thanks for stopping by No Hippie Trucking Transportation. I appreciate it. Comment, subscribe. I'm out.